Welcome to Transatlantic Listen Talk. I am your host, Andy, and I am back with my brother Dale after a couple of weeks off. How we doing, brother?
Welcome back, Andy, and thanks for coming to the United States. I hope it was just a
Mm.
wonderful, wonderful time for you to go visit and see WrestleMania. How was the left coast?
Yeah, leave it there. It was all right. Do you know what? Right, the actual events were awesome, the place, but I would never go back to LA. It was an absolute dump.
I would agree with you. I'm not going to touch foot in there anymore. Was the Hollywood sign polluted as ever?
I seen it from afar. I didn't even bother going up there. But one thing I did notice is like the Hollywood's Walk of Fame and things like that was like it was lovely when you're walking down that street, but then you walk one street over and it was just absolutely tense and stuff. It was heartbreaking, really, to be honest.
Yeah, hopefully you didn't step on any hypodermics.
Yeah.
But speaking of hypodermics, let's talk about steroids. Anyway, I'm only kidding. But yeah, absolutely. So welcome back here, my friend. We ventured into talking about, hey, look, let's try and do one more WrestleMania here. And we picked one that I think everybody can relate to, and it transcends across every single generation here, not just on the front of what's modern day, and who we
Mm.
consider legends, but also in the past too, and we'll touch up on that as well. WrestleMania X7 17, the big one, I guess you could say, correct?
Yeah. I think it was the one that really broke the attendance records at the time, didn't it? I thought it was really, really good from start to finish. This whole pay-per-view, the build of these matches was great as well. There was a couple of throwaway matches in there, but the actual main matches were built very, very well, which is something I don't feel like we do in modern day wrestling enough now.
No, and actually, to fault, you could probably consider them overproduced at this point as far as modern day. But when
Mm.
you look at the structure of the pay per view, and like you said, or usually say, let me out matches, even those are really, really enjoyable. And we'll touch upon them.
Yeah.
But you actually did say something very key there. This is the first million purchase pay per view ever. Think about that. And since this was on in the stateside, these were about $50 to $60 at the time, if I recall. That's a lot of money for broadcasting. And it
Mm.
almost ended abruptly. We'll get into that.
Yes, it did. Well, as we said, we've got some good veterans on here. We've also got some current stars, and that's where probably we're best starting. Nice little segue. We've got Chris Jericho versus William Regal for the Intercontinental Championship.
What a build. Just
Yeah.
piss in a teacup.
But that's again, as I said before, mate, even this match, the opening match, it's for the belt and stuff like that, but it's still got a nice build to it, and it's still got something that means something in this match.
Of course, yeah, and that's what it all comes down to. We have William Regal, who's actually the I'm not he's the pseudo GM at this point, so he's making the
Commissioner.
matches. He's the commissioner, correct? Something that they really don't touch upon now. I guess that's Adam Pierce, but yeah, he goes one on one with Jericho. He's been feuding. Jericho has been doing his smart ass remarks, and the crowd's eating it up on each chance that he gets. And I also believe that he dressed up as Doink during the build, so that's a really funny thing
Yeah,
there.
yeah, he did.
Um, great opener here, and this is like a wrestling match that you enjoy.
Yeah, I like the bit. Some of the technical stuff in this was really good. William and Jericho were both on point here. And as I say, you've got the story here that makes you want to see the match. You've got the wrestling in ring. It was just all good from start to finish.
Yeah, it just you know what you're getting with these guys because you also do hear that basically Regal is just the architect for matches like this, and the heel. This is a case in point where heel actually constructs the match, and Jericho has no problem dealing with that. And these guys definitely dealt with each other in the past, and they might deal with each other in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, that's it. Well, Jericho gets the win here. Right move again, because obviously you don't want the commissioner being the title holder, in my opinion, anyway. But really, really solid match. I'd probably say 3 out of 5.
Yeah, definitely for the build, and to finally like for a 7 minute 40 second match. This is what you want to see, and Jericho goes over with the IC belt. Great. We lead it to something afterwards where it just shows basically a 6-man that kind of was thrown together because right to censor was a big deal. I don't think at this point that right to censor really had any combatants besides the APA with Miss Jacqueline and also Taz, who this was a fall from grace over the past year and a half. Not going to get too much into this match. The one thing I'm going to say, though, is that I think one thing here, they knew the talent that they had with Bradshaw. They gave him a nice promo in the beginning saying how a lot of athletes from Texas elevated this place and he wants to fight proud. They
Yeah,
knew.
well,
Do
I
you
was
think
gonna.
they knew what they had?
No, do you know what? I don't think at this point he did. I'll be honest. I think this was all because Bradshaw and Jacqueline were from Texas, and it was get them on the card because I think they mentioned it probably about 6, 7 times in a couple of minutes through this promo, and then obviously Bradshaw gets the win for the team of the APA and Jacqueline. So I don't think they realised at this point what they have fully with Bradshaw. Also, I don't think they realised what they fully had with the APA because they still refer to them as the acolytes, and they still had the old acolyte pants on and stuff. So, you know, it was. I think they were still in a bit of a transition here, and you know, APA is one of my favourite tag teams. They were great
Oh,
once they
yeah.
got going full.
Oh, yeah. And look, like I was saying, this is like a trial run for Bradshaw at this point. Just to be
Yeah.
like, you know what? And then somebody said, that was a pretty good promo. Remember, there was a couple of pushes for Bradshaw early on in his career. Several. They finally found
Yeah.
the one that was right.
Yeah.
Anyway, going into one of the funniest and the quintessential hardcore matches ever. All right, we have a triple threat: Raven, Big Show, Kane. And I guess Kane said, fuck it. I went to the Royal Rumble. I had a hardcore style in there where he was just dominant. If you recall that point, where he's dominant and was hitting trash can lids over Al Snow, Raven, Steve Blackman, I think, and even Grandmaster Sexay. And he's like, I'm going to go for the title here. On a whole, what'd you think of this match?
Straight away, one of my frustrations with this match was the fact that it was longer than Chris Jericho versus William Regal, and it was also longer than Eddie Guerrero versus Test, which was really frustrating. But all in all, it was all right. I was never a big fan of the hardcore stuff. Didn't mind it now and again, but I hated the whole backstage, in stage things. It just really annoyed me, to be honest.
Especially you as a viewer or being there. I get it. I did laugh though because I'm watching this and the golf cart scene when they have Kane puts the referee in the back of the cart and they end up driving off to go follow Raven and Big.
Yeah.
In the beginning of here, I said this almost got cut off. Raven almost ran over a wire that could have cut the whole power to the production when he ran into the fence with Big Show. So memorable spots here. Raven actually got hit by a car during this match too.
I know. I think the biggest thing for me with the matches like this is I think if the best time of the hardcore was Crash Holly.
Oh,
You know, for me personally, I don't know why, but like the likes of Kane and Big Show, I just never believed them in this. They shouldn't have been involved in these matches.
Fully agree here. Fully agree here. But yeah, Kane goes over with an elbow drop onto. It was weird but fitting. I liked it. That's elbow drop onto Big Show through the stage. So yeah, we were all entertained. I think we see Shane McMahon come out of a limo afterwards with WCW on there. The acquisition that took place not too long beforehand. I guess what was it? The Monday prior?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
The Monday prior, so they had no way to write them.
Yeah,
on
because
the
if you look at the actual storyline for back then, it was Vince was going to do the actual signing at WrestleMania.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what that was part. That was why when he announced it on Monday Night Raw, he was like, "I will sign I will sign on the dotted line at WrestleMania," and then that's how Shane. That was where the story where Shane slid in and robbed him.
Yep. And they were also going to have some involvement with there, but somebody like a Stasiak ended up spilling the beans to a reporter. And that's when they said, nope, we're not doing any run ins with WCW during that match. But we'll get to that match shortly. Like you said, Eddie Guerrero versus Test. Not going to get too into it. Guerrero's just fantastic. Shout out to Perry Saturn with the Lugs t-shirt.
Yeah. Test was good in this match as well. I was thinking, I think Test has the best pump handle slam in wrestling, or had it.
Didn't it look like it flowed so well?
Yeah, so smooth. So smooth. And I like Test me. I thought Test, his boot as well. I thought his big boot was great.
Was he championship material?
No, I don't think he was. I think he could have possibly gone into it if he would have got a bit more work with him and stuff like that. But one thing I will say with him is he didn't do a lot in terms of wrestling, but what he did do, he done very well, and that's probably the basis of where you needed to go.
Good big man, good elbow
Yeah,
drop too.
yeah,
That you're right though. That boot, I think the boot was a finisher, and Here Comes the Pain.
yeah. It was, yeah, yeah,
That's a cheap way to do it. People just your friend that didn't know how to do specials would just do a running boot.
yeah. Well, Eddie gets the win here with help of the Radicals, Perry Saturn, and then Dean Malenko comes down. Dean looks old here.
That shirt didn't help.
Yeah, no, he looked old and he didn't look like he was moving very well for some
Yeah.
reason. I don't know whether he had an injury at the time or what, but he just didn't look the best, you know what I mean?
You know, I remember this briefly. Remember when he was hitting on Lita and courting her for a while?
Yeah.
That's something that they never bring to light. And I forget. Maybe it might have been like a 1 month thing, but he was taking her out on dates. Tried to give Dean Malenko personality, but
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. Anyway, we'll move on to the next. We've got Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit. Obviously, as always, we don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but we will talk about it. I thought Chris Benoit was awesome. I thought Kurt Angle was awesome. The actual mat wrestling really had me. I don't think the crowd were into it as much as what they possibly could have been, but me as a viewer watching it on TV was like really, really into the whole chain wrestling that they done.
absolutely correct. And I think if you flip this to be the first match alongside with Jericho and Regal being this in this match slot, like you said, the crowd wouldn't be too crazy into it, but they would if it was an opener. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
I think because it's almost like the two types of styles of wrestling at this point.
Well, that's it. And we're 6 matches in as well at this point, so
Yeah. But then you also got to realize Kurt has this whole thing where he's like, if a referee doesn't see me tap, I'm not actually tapping. And it's a good, like, I'm not going to give up type of style that he's going to continue throughout his freaking career. Benoit is just levels above the competition. Even from when we saw him at double tables in ECW. I'm sorry I had to bring that up. But he even knew he was one of the top guys on the card there. I'm sorry I brought that up.
No, I think that's probably one of the kind of moans I'd have about this card or critique is I would have moved Kane, Big Show, and Raven and swapped it with Eddie Guerrero, and that way you might have got a bit more of a pop for this match.
It's a good call. Yeah, I like that.
Because then you would have had Jericho, Regal, the 6-man, Let Me Up. Then you would have had Eddie versus Test. Then Kane, Raven, Show will Let Me Up, and then Kurt Angle. So it would have flowed a bit better, I think.
Oh yeah, it's not like these marathon matches that happen at other pay-per-views where it's just like, all right, enough, we're exhausted. But then we go into a happenstance where they need to make China happy, so they give her a squash match that this should have been the Let Me Out match, and I guess people were cheering because they were trying to redeem themselves from Royal Rumble when JR had the Owen Hart voice.
Yeah. See, I don't mind this with China, and I thought Ivory done such a good job, yeah.
Professional.
Such a good job. Yeah.
Professional.
She was so scared. She was like, it wasn't even a matter of, I'm going to wrestle her here. It was like, oh my God, I can't take her on. Then she starts to hit her with the belt and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It brilliant. She's done really well.
Yeah, she did. By the way, Ivory, one of the nicest wrestlers I've ever met in my life.
Yeah. Well, I always remember Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling that I watched on Netflix. But to be honest, if you haven't seen it, go and watch it because it's a great series.
Did you
the new one? One of the original, yeah, the one on Netflix, yeah.
Yes.
No, not the actual wrestling, the TV program.
Oh, hello? Right. But are you talking about what they did for Netflix, where they remade it with Allison Brie and?
Yeah, but it was just like basically like a TV. It was like a series, wasn't it? A docu-series. Not like a docu-series, like a soap, but it was really good.
It's so good. It was then unfortunately the pandemic killed production on that.
Yeah,
but there are unreleased frames as far as what was or they just released frames from season 4, I guess you could say. But they're not even putting it out there, and it's sad because it was a great program. Yeah, Ivory, one of the originals.
Yeah, she was. Well, China obviously squashed it in 2 minutes 38. Got a WrestleMania pop. Yeah, we move on. Then we go into our main match for the evening. as far as they built because up until this point they hadn't really built much. They showed Rock going into his changing room and stuff, but they hadn't really built the Austin Rock. It was all about the McMahon feud, wasn't it?
Kind of. I mean, they did just make the biggest acquisition in the world. We'll get
Yeah.
into the build for Austin and Rock because it's synonymous with what we all think about as far as pay-per-view builds. But man, going into it, you see.
Sorry, what I mean by the build is I mean building throughout the show. They're all leading up to the McMahon match, not the actual build before the pay-per-view.
Correct. Yes, I apologize. Yes, you're absolutely right. Between Trish Stratus wheeling Zombie Linda up.
Yeah, and Stephanie asking for ice crush by hand.
What a little bitch. And the daddy's little girl suit with the crimped hair. Oh boy. But anyway, this is just this whole thing was just an absolute circus. Shane McMahon comes out, says hi to the boys, one of them being Johnny Ace up in the corner, Stasiak, Hugh Morris there. I'm calling him Hugh Morris, Bill DeMott, Stacy Keibler sitting there. I think Lance Storm as well when they show that, show the people in WCW there. So basically they both come out with the same theme songs. All right. Mick Foley is actually spaced out in between just to separate the two. Just real good stuff here. Just solid stuff here.
Yeah, it really was, and it was. You know what, the McMahons are what they are, and the fact that they're just the pageantry and that is exactly what you'd expect. And you know, I'm there along for the rides with this one. I like the way Foley, who didn't like McMahon, was involved, and you know the way that Linda stands up and gets the pop, and Vince is just horrible to it. It's great. It's just great. It's great viewing. Great viewing.
What a pop! I put that on the site, and what a pop. It's just unbelievable, the amount of noise that Linda McMahon zombie. Hold on. Can you do a Linda McMahon face right now? It's just phenomenal. Shane ends up winning with a drop kick to the face or the trash can, which hits the face of Vince McMahon. 1, 2, 3. Trish Stratus turns on Vince McMahon at that point, too. A lot of angles just meshed in here.
Yeah, it really is, mate, and it was really good, to be honest with you. I can't argue with
it. And then you're thinking that you're coming down from this. Then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, we got TLC too.
Yeah. Again, I probably moved. I mean, I don't know how you'd move that, suppose. So you probably just got to go with it. But maybe China and that in between this one. But you know, I get why they didn't. I get why they didn't do that because obviously you've had the. It is what it is, but this was just awesome, mate. You know, one of the things. Do you know the one thing I love about this, right, is how clever it is when Jeff Hardy swings and Edge hits him. Now, when I only ever noticed this today, but it's like if you notice the way that without that swing, it probably looks crap.
Mm-hmm.
And the swing really does it, and you can see Jeff waiting. And then he swings out, and you know it was perfect. So good.
These guys knew each other very well at that time. Yeah. And I'd also like to say that was probably one of the safest bumps that you can do from there. Just the way they landed was great. You know, Jeff was just a madman. I just hope that he's okay for the rest of his life. I know he's got his issues, but this is great. And each team has somebody that comes out to help them out, like Spike, Lita, Rhino.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, and the one thing is that's what made it different from TLC 1, and that's what I really liked about it, because it did have that variety that you needed in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Rhino was still just a guy that you could tell Vince loved. Nobody could sit there and say Vince didn't really care about Rhino. Rhino was sprinkled in throughout this career here. I mean, even 5, 6 years ago, he was a tag team champ with Heath Slater.
I know.
So Rhino's a guy that really just always, he had a knack for wrestling, still looks great. And he's somebody that, you know, I would enjoy any type of match that he's in. I'm not even just saying that. Even the later days of ECW too, is you could tell this was a guy built for wrestling in any company.
Yeah. It's just a shame he didn't have the charisma to go with it, or he wouldn't have, you know, he could have been a champion potentially.
Could have had a manager at some point.
Yeah. I think they tried that though, didn't they, with Heyman at some point, and it just didn't work out.
No.
But
I heard you're a Paul Heyman guy.
I am a Paul Heyman guy. I love Paul Heyman.
By the way, we should put it out there. Paul Heyman did a great job on the announce booth here.
He did. I liked it, and I liked the way that he was like, "It's my first WrestleMania," and all the rest of it. Really good.
Awesome pairing. Him
Yeah.
and Ross, great pairing.
Yeah.
And they'll continue.
I will. Well, Edge and Christian win this match. Really like the fact that they win this match because I feel like they're the ones with the whole 5-second pose and everything that's coming. I thought they were the ones that were on the way up, and it was a good move to put the belts on them here.
The right move. Because these guys had more charisma than the Dudleys, the Hardys, too.
Yeah.
These were marketable people.
But these guys done what they always do, and it's one of them. There's no losers coming out of this match because they all just put the name in lights.
No, right. It's a good point. Their attraction is because of this. If we say TLC 2, you know who we're talking about, or TLC.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why, one day when they start putting matches into the Hall of Fame, which will happen, then this match will be one of them.
I never thought about that. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And I believe this will be, and I believe that'll be one of the first ones to go in.
It should be that and Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, definitely. But then we move on to my favorite thing, and I don't know why they don't do this every year. And do you know what? Before you go all off on one, because I know you will, I'm going to explain why it's one of my favorite things on this. It's one of my favorite things because all the legends look so happy. And we got to see the entrances, and we had a bit of fun, and I'm all for that, me.
What would I go off of on this?
It shouldn't be on the card. You're taking people off the card.
Absolutely not. No, absolutely. I love this. What are you kidding me? The card was, remember, the roster was not as big as this, as what they are now in AEW or whatever, in WWE. This match was fantastic. It was hilarious on so many different avenues. And Bobby Heenan and Mean Gene Okerlund working together were great. Some of the lines were when Repo Man came out, Mean Gene said he repoed his own car. I'm sorry. Heenan said he repoed his own car last month, and then Mean Gene said he repoed my mother-in-law's. He got my mother-in-law's last week, and then Bobby said everybody had your mother-in-law.
No, but I loved it. I loved it from the start. Hillbilly Jim looks dead young on this, doesn't he? And it makes you think, why is he not wrestling at this point?
Yeah, Jim is great. Jim got a pop and a half. Even they couldn't hold back the pop over that terrible, terrible music that they had to fill in here.
Oh, I know.
Who were some of the favorites for you besides the Bushwhackers? By the way, we need to address something as far as the Bushwhackers go.
Yeah, really sad news about Luke. It was really sad, and you know what? It gutted me because I was at one of the events. I can't remember which one it was. And one of the guys who I was speaking to was saying a wrestler had been rushed out on a stretcher, and he didn't even know at the time who it was. And then when I seen the news, it broke about Paul Luke's passing. I was like, oh my god, yeah, that's who it was. Yeah. But one thing that I will say is the Bushwhackers as a whole were both known for being such. They loved the fans. They absolutely adored the fans, and the fact that he went out doing something that he loved doing.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And the one thing I do love is when they lick Mean Gene Okerlund's hair. He says, oh, they just licked my hair. And Heenan said, both of them.
Yeah. Heenan was just great, wasn't he? Full to it.
You could tell how happy they were just being there, too.
I know. Even Jim Cornette. Look at Jim Cornette walking out. He's so happy, isn't he?
Yep. Yeah, he got asked to do it I think 2 weeks beforehand. He's like, all right, I'll do it. So he was hiding with Brother Love. Hiding with Bruce. Let's put out there some of the other guys. Doink got a huge ovation there. Because why not? Hillbilly Jim, Sergeant Slaughter. By the way, just putting it out there. When Dale used to do backyard wrestling, the Cobra Clutch was his move. Sheik wins it, though.
Yep. Right move.
Yep. Did you think there was going to be an alliance between Tugboat and Earthquake?
Yeah. I thought. Well, do you know what? I didn't. I thought them two would take each other out,
and they did. Earthquake did.
Just because I thought to myself, well, he didn't come out as Typhoon, and he panned to the camera, and Earthquake kind of looked like that when he come out, which was quite cool.
Awesome. Kimchi,
Yeah,
Brooklyn Brawler.
Brooklyn Ball. And also, it was nice to see Harvey Whip there as well, or Downtown Bruno.
Did you cheer when you saw Michael Hayes coming out the back street?
No, I hate Michael Hayes. I think he's an idiot.
I loved that. I thought it was great. Dude, he was throwing smoke. He was throwing punches in that. He would look good. He was
I
throwing
know.
better punches than the guys today.
I never liked the Freebirds. Never liked them.
Do you know they were in the first scene of Highlander?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
How many can there only be?
One.
One.
So I don't like the Freebirds. Never liked them. Thought they were rubbish even back in the day. So, but I like Michael Hayes when he's producing and stuff. I like some of the matches he does and that. So it's not like I've got anything against the guy, but I just didn't.
All right, man. All right, man.
Yeah.
All right.
I suppose you got to be from the south to understand that gimmick. I suppose.
Yeah, that's how it is here.
Yeah.
Looking real. Did you ever hear Paul London talk about how him and Brian Kendrick were showering and Michael Hayes went in there? He says, "You guys looking good, looking real good."
Can I imagine? Have you ever seen a film called Orgasmo?
Of course.
Yeah, have you seen that fella? I don't want to sound like a weird man. That reminds me of Michael Hayes. I don't know why it's always reminds me of Michael Hayes.
You got a nice ass.
Brilliant. Right, well, we'll move on anyway. Sheik wins that one. And then we move on to, in my opinion, the best match of the night in terms of actual like storytelling and wrestling. Don't be wrong, the main event was fire, but this was really, really good. And this was a common thing for Undertaker and Triple H, not just when they wrestled each other, but when they had matches on the cards. If they weren't the main event, you knew for a fact, like going back and watching any of these pay-per-views or anything that we do, whenever you see Triple H kind of before the main event or Undertaker before the main event, you kind of look and go, okay, this is going to be a banger.
And it is.
Yeah. It's almost like to get offended into performing to a high standard, isn't it?
And here's the thing here with this. The build is Triple H wants some sort of title shot at some point. He's owed it. And then you never face a dead man. That comes out. And then it comes to American Badass, and then they end up just being combatants at that point, going head to head each week. Something's happening, and then he's getting Undertaker arrested. Then they have a injunction slapped on him saying like you can't come within 100 feet of Stephanie. So he orders Kane to do it. Brilliant, like
yeah.
And then Kane's holding up Stephanie over the ledge, and Undertaker says to Regal, "All right, give me a match," and then she'll come down safely. So they have this match. Just like TLC, I can't really describe this match too well, other than the fact that the ref bump took out Kyoto, and then Undertaker said, "Fuck it," and just elbowed Kyoto more, so he's passed out on the ground for about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Didn't matter at that point. They went throughout the stadium.
Yeah. Well, Undertaker gets the win in the end after a lot of near falls, a lot of different things where you thought, one thing that's interesting is they didn't really even mention the streak at this point, did they?
No. I think they said something like a decade of destruction.
Yes, that was correct. Yeah,
but they didn't mention the streak. What if Triple H won?
I know. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'll continue to pound the chest here. Triple H gets too much hate as a wrestler. He elevates his talent, man. So
he does.
Good.
He does. He was always good, and I always felt like it was a bit mean the way that people always just kind of pushed him as though he's using his father-in-law to get what he wants. No, he didn't. He was a great talent anyway.
Thank you.
Did it help him? Yeah. But would the overall results have been similar? Probably. I don't think he would have not been a champion. He would have still got there.
Look, if you're marrying the boss's hot daughter and you get a couple extra zeros at the end of your check, what are you going to do?
In terms of his Hall of Fame career, it still would have happened, in my opinion.
I agree fully. You can't deny that. Obviously, spots on the card might be different, but look at his level of work. Look at how good he's been. It's just, and this match right here, even with the knowing how to be a heel, Ric Flair did the blueprint of being a heel, and Triple H perfected it. Yeah. The mannerisms. I don't care what
That's
people want to take from what I just said. Look at the way people hated him. Even Jim Ross put it over how much of a bastard Triple H was.
I know, yeah. Well, we move on to the main event. How does that main event feel about it now? We actually get there before then. I don't feel like they pushed this enough on the card. I don't feel like they made it as thingy. But then once we got there, we really got there, you know. And it was a great match from start to finish.
The build was amazing. You could even take away the Deborah stuff where she managed Rock. I forgot about that, and I'm like thinking about this now. I know you didn't like Deborah. That wasn't even needed.
No.
If anything, it was a spark plug to say, you hit Deborah, you touch Deborah, I'm gonna get at you right now. And they did their best, but it just didn't hold them back.
No.
He was saying, I need the title, and more than anything in the world. And even in the beginning, Vince McMahon said everybody will be shocked tonight. And they think that this is talking about his match against his son. This ends up being with Austin. Austin's at another fucking level here, isn't he?
Yeah, and also, you know, I think The Rock is as well. I think you've always got to turn around and say to yourself, like, you can't have one without the other, without a dance partner like that. You know, same with Foley, with Undertaker. You know, there's got to be that other person in there with you to kind of go along with it, go on the dance. And these two together just were magic. They were, and that's why they still the headline 3 WrestleManias together.
Best rivalry ever. Now,
Yeah.
even when you and I did WrestleMania 19, and it was like the end, and that was at the time Austin's last match. I think
Yeah.
Rock stayed in for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Was there any? I mean, it was just beauty. It was
It,
beauty.
it was, and you know, one thing that I'll say is it's the little finer details for me. So obviously, when McMahon comes out and he hands the chair to Austin, and Austin hits the Rock with the chair, but then the Rock kicks out. And I thought that was great. And then, like, in the end, where he's just frantically smashing him with the chair to keep him down, it's like, them little details mean a lot to me, you know.
I agree, and nothing was ever seen like that. And I remember watching it, and the people I was with were Rock fans, and they just hated the ending. And I remember being an Austin fan, and not that I didn't like The Rock, but I was just like, that's different.
Yeah, yeah.
I was shocked. I was in awe. The fact that like Austin's coming out all stops, and even Jim Ross saying, "Oh my God, he's using the $1 Million Dream. He hasn't done that since he was the ringmaster." What a fucking call!
Yeah. And then Jim Ross at the end when Austin won was just good. I visited you in hospital. I thought we were friends.
Uh,
So good. So good.
so I have a question for you though. With this being the heel turn of heel turns, okay, and this being done in Texas, was this the wrong or right move?
Right.
I agree. And not only that, it's a somber one because this is technically what people consider, and I agree with Foley, this is the end of the Attitude Era. You
Yeah.
need to close that.
Yeah.
They close that book.
Yeah. I think they're right. They closed the book on it because the attitude there, in essence, was McMahon versus Austin with his attitude against McMahon. So by closing that and putting them two together, you do close that chapter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Massively.
Yep. Triple H says the story never ends at WWE. That was after the press conference with Cody saying, finish the story. And that was just a nice little FU. That's what happens when you wreck somebody's throne. That's another story.
That's it. Well, but the thing is, the story didn't end. It's just the chapter changed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Or an
because I
epilogue.
don't. Yeah, because you know, at the end of the day, obviously we had the rest of the story with McMahon and Austin and everything else that went on. But you know, I've got no problem with it. I'd say for me, the Attitude Era was, again, the story didn't end; it just changed the chapter.
Yep.
And we're still, and you know, Triple H is right. We're still writing the story, you know.
It'll never end. It'll never end. And now you have Endeavor backing this place up, and it's just the avenues of possibility are endless at this point.
Yeah.
Just awesome. I love this main event, even if people didn't get the results they wanted. This is just a story. You know, I mean, the Empire Strikes Back really put a sour taste in people's mouth, but at the same time, wasn't it part of the story that you needed?
Yeah.
Then you have Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, that's it. You've
And
got to get there, haven't you? And I thought this was just so well done from start to finish. Just so well done.
And good on The Rock, too.
Yeah. Don't be wrong. Did I think that he's probably dropped the ball a little bit with the whole Austin McMahon getting together? Yeah, it did, because the whole alliance thing was a little bit kind of it stained it, but it was still good, and we were happy with it. Right. So overall, in terms of this pay-per-view, what would you give this pay-per-view?
Now, when we grade, we're talking about not the matches in specific, and obviously some matches are going to be better than others, and they're not all going to be 5-star bangers. I am going to pull a card here, and I'm going to say that this is the perfect pay-per-view. I could watch this endlessly. I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. This is one of my favorite pay-per-views ever. Probably the quintessential pay-per-view. Even if the card was staggered like this, everything told a story and culminated. And it's just a fantastic ending to the Attitude Era of the childhood.
Yeah. I think if for me personally, again, I'll probably go for a 10, and I'm going to tell you why. Is I feel like if I'm sitting there with my son, my dad, and we're all watching it together, is my dad will point out the Iron Sheik, he will point out Hillbilly Jim. My son will point out The Rock, Stone Cold, Undertaker, and Chris Jericho and Triple H. And then obviously I know them all on there. So it's like, as you say, for a multi-generation to sit there and watch this, it's got a bit for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's so true. And that's even with Bull Buchanan on the card too.
Bull Buchanan is so underrated, mate. I don't care what anybody says. So underrated.
B squared.
Yeah, very underrated.
But going into it though, seriously, this card was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just top to bottom told stories, and even some of them would continue later on, and not too much. Yes, there were shenanigans, but at the same time, even when Linda McMahon could get a pop like that, that's how you know that you have a formula for success, and you could just create cash. And that's what this company did. And this company created fantastic moments that all culminated here. And I am just privileged to be discussing this pay-per-view with you.
Yeah,
just amazing.
Same with you, dudes. Well, guys, that is our WrestleMania 17. Thanks very much for watching it. Apologies about the couple of weeks off, but I'm not sorry because I got to go to WrestleMania. So,
well, it's your turn now. It's your turn now.
It is, and we are in April, aren't we? Still next week.
Yeah, that's right. So obviously, WrestleMania has spanned March and then April over the past couple of years. Actually, since existence. So there's definitely a lot to choose from at that point. There's also endless pay-per-views, especially once these In Your Houses came out, right?
Yeah. Let me think.
Yeah, one of the things, while Andy's thinking, one of the things that I thought about here was that the hardcore title ended up getting relinquished. When Bischoff came in, they had the Battle Royal. Tommy Dreamer won that, believe it or not, and then it was absorbed by the then champion, the Intercontinental Champion RVD. So that's one thing that people don't realize, that RVD kind of retired the hardcore title.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've got one for you, my friend. So we've been doing a lot of WrestleManias. You've also just mentioned Eric Bischoff. So we're going to go for Spring Stampede 1998.
Wow. Okay, cool. All right. And they're going to be outdoors in this one?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
It's at the Coliseum, Denver Coliseum.
Denver Coliseum. Okay. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to go revisit it. I think we have to, right? Because we are wrestling community service.
And that's what it's all about, mate. It's making us to go back and watch these things, which is just awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, like the video. Come over to our Facebook group and interact with us. We're getting a lot more interaction on there, which is awesome. So keep it up, and we'll see you over there. And until next time, same place. Take care.
Bye.